You worked for it. You planned, you sacrificed, you pushed through the doubt and the exhaustion and the long stretches where nothing seemed to move. And then one day, you arrived. The promotion came through. The relationship you wanted began. The project finished. The number in your account reached the figure you had once circled in your mind like a promise to yourself. And then, quietly, something unexpected happened. Nothing. Not relief, not joy, not the deep, settled feeling you had been certain would be waiting for you on the other side. Just a strange, unsettling silence. A sense that the map had run out, and you were standing in territory nobody had warned you about. If that sounds familiar, you are not failing. You are not ungrateful. You are not broken. You are, in fact, asking the most honest question a human being can ask. What actually makes a life feel meaningful? This is the question that sits at the heart of meaning of life psychology, and it is far more practical than it sounds. There is a pattern that appears again and again in human experience. A person organizes their entire inner life around a goal. The goal becomes the answer to every uncomfortable question. Why am I working so hard? For this. Why am I tolerating this situation? For this. Why does any of it matter? Because of this. The goal functions not just as an ambition, but as a container for meaning itself. The psychological difficulty is that goals, by their nature, end. They are designed to be completed, and when they are, the meaning that was stored inside them does not automatically transfer somewhere else. It simply becomes available again, unhoused, looking for a new home. Many people experience this as emptiness, restlessness, or a low, persistent anxiety they cannot quite name. One way to understand this is to think about the difference between what we might call surface meaning and deep meaning. Surface meaning is the kind that comes from external markers: status, recognition, measurable progress, the approval of people we respect. It is real, and it matters, but it is also fragile because it depends entirely on conditions outside ourselves remaining stable. Deep meaning, by contrast, tends to come from something more interior. A sense of connection, of contribution, of being genuinely aligned with what we actually value rather than what we have been told to value. The trouble is that most of us spend the first several decades of life building surface meaning, because that is what the world rewards and reflects back to us. We are praised for results. We are measured by outputs. We are encouraged to want things that can be counted. And so the interior life, the quieter, slower, harder to articulate dimension of who we are, often goes undeveloped until something forces us to pay attention to it. That forcing moment might be a loss, it might be illness, or the end of a relationship, or the death of someone who made the world feel coherent. It might be success itself, arriving and revealing its own limits. Whatever the trigger, the experience is often the same. The old framework no longer holds, and something deeper is being asked for. This is not a crisis of weakness. It is, in many ways, a crisis of readiness. There is a useful idea in the psychology of human development that suggests we are not the same person at every stage of life. The values and drives that organize us in our 20s are not necessarily the ones that will sustain us in our 40s or 60s. What once felt like purpose, proving ourselves, building security, establishing identity, may gradually give way to a different kind of hunger. The need to contribute something that outlasts us, to understand ourselves more honestly, to live in closer alignment with what we actually believe, rather than what we once needed to believe. This shift is not a regression. It is often a deepening. Consider what it means to ask the question, why am I here? For many people, that question arrives wrapped in shame, as though asking it is evidence of having got something wrong. But the question itself is not a symptom of failure. It is a sign that the psyche is ready to move beyond the provisional answers it accepted earlier in life and reach for something more genuinely its own. One of the most grounded ways to begin that search is to pay attention to what moves you, not what impresses you, not what you think you should care about, but what actually stirs something in you. What makes you feel, even briefly, that you are in the right place doing the right thing. These moments are not decorative. They are data. They point towards something real about who you are and what your particular life might be for. Another useful frame is to think about the difference between having values and living values. Most people, if asked, can name things they believe in: honesty, connection, creativity, service, growth. But there is often a significant gap between the values a person can articulate and the values that actually organize their daily choices. Meaning tends to deepen when that gap narrows. When the way you spend your time, your attention, and your energy begins to reflect what you genuinely hold important, rather than what habit or obligation has accumulated around you. This is not about dramatic reinvention. It rarely requires quitting everything and starting again, though sometimes a genuine change of direction is exactly what is needed. More often, it is about small, deliberate acts of alignment, choosing one conversation over another, protecting time for something that matters to you, even when it is inconvenient, saying no to something that drains you in order to say yes to something that restores you. These choices, repeated over time, build a life that feels inhabited rather than merely occupied. It is also worth saying something about meaning after loss, because loss is one of the most common doorways into this territory. When someone or something central to your life is gone, the meaning that was woven through that relationship or that chapter does not simply disappear. But it does need to be renegotiated. The question is not how to return to who you were before, but how to carry what mattered forward into who you are becoming. Grief, in this sense, is not the opposite of meaning. It is often the place where meaning becomes most visible, because loss reveals what we truly valued. There is also something important to say about connection. One of the most consistent findings in the psychology of human well-being is that a sense of genuine connection to other people, not performance, not networking, but real mutual recognition, is among the most reliable sources of felt meaning. Not because other people complete us, but because meaning is, in many ways, a shared project. We find ourselves reflected in others. We discover what we care about through what we are willing to protect, fight for, or sacrifice for someone else. The relational dimension of a meaningful life is not a soft addition to the serious work of purpose. It often is the serious work. None of this is a formula. There is no sequence of steps that produces meaning on demand, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something. What there is, instead, is a practice of honest attention to what you value, to what moves you, to where your energy goes when it is not being managed or performed. That attention, sustained over time, tends to reveal something. Not a grand answer, but a direction. Not a destination, but a way of moving through the world that feels gradually more like yours. The question of what makes a life feel meaningful is not one you answer once and file away. It is one you return to, at different ages and in different circumstances, and each time it asks something slightly different of you. That is not a burden. That is the shape of a life that is genuinely being lived. If this video has stirred something in you, take a moment to sit with it. The discomfort of the question is often where the most important thinking begins. And if you would like to explore more of these ideas, Inside the Labyrinth is here for exactly that kind of conversation. And if this spoke to a part of you that rarely gets heard, stay with that feeling for a moment. You are not broken because you feel deeply. You are only beginning to understand yourself. Subscribe to Inside the Labyrinth for more reflections on the hidden patterns of the human mind.